Hello, and welcome to Be Well Together. We have officially made it to the end of our work week. And top of mind for me today is we've also made it to the end of Teacher Appreciation Week. And I just want to take a moment to say, as a newly branded homeschooling mother, wow. From the bottom of my heart, teachers are truly everyday heroes, and I am very grateful for them. And I have them in my heart very closely these days. So today we have a really wonderful guest who's going to help carry us into the weekend in just the best way possible, with peace and tranquility and just a calmer mind. Let me please introduce to you Mindfulness Meditation Teacher at InsightLA, Dr. Christiane Wolf. She is the co-author of the book, A Clinician's Guide to Teaching Mindfulness, and she leads the National Mindfulness Training for clinicians at the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. So a pretty impressive woman. And today she's going to help us all with a practice around self-compassion. So with that, welcome to Be Well Together.
Thank you, Jody, for the lovely introduction, and hello, everybody. And I just so echo, I have 3 teenagers at home, and also like teachers are totally my heroes. Also just want to take a moment to appreciate like all the amazing work that the teachers are doing. So self-kindness or self-compassion is something that people often don't really think so much about it when they think about meditation. But the fact is that we all can use some kindness and some self-kindness. And so self-compassion really is the idea that we are attending to ourselves the way a good friend would attend to us when we're struggling, or the way that we are attending to a good friend when they're struggling. There's just something in our culture that for many people makes it hard to appreciate themselves or to acknowledge if something is difficult. So many of us have like learned to, if something isn't working, instead of just saying like, wow, that's really hard right now to feel that way, to go in again and try harder. And not that that is wrong, but that if that is our only way to approach difficulty or hardship, then we're just really limited with how we can deal with this and integrate this, and to eventually actually lead like a more calm and happier life. So that's where we're coming from. And I want to guide us through this practice, and we'll do a combination of just like a settling and breath practice, and then self-compassion practice. And what's really interesting is that over these last few years, self-compassion has been widely researched. So I don't know if you're aware, but maybe when you grew up, self-esteem was a big thing in school. Like it was all like, oh, if your self-esteem is high, then you'll be successful in life, you'll be successful in school. And it turns out that self-esteem, of course, is very closely linked with how you're doing and how you are being perceived by your peers. And that is, of course, a trick, because that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. And so now researchers have started to research this concept of self-kindness and found that it actually is a better predictor of like success in life than self-esteem, which is really interesting. And so self-compassion can be broken down into 3 different aspects. And the first one is mindfulness, right? So I'm sure like over these last few weeks, you've heard a lot about mindfulness, and present moment awareness is just like being in the moment, not being lost in the past, not anticipating the future. Like that's like what we normally do, like the rehashing and the rehearsing that's going on. But so mindfulness just lets us turn to this moment and say, what's actually here? And while, of course, we're looking for peace in this moment and calm, the fact is that we're not always peaceful, right? And I've just noticed that in myself and in other people around me and people I work with, is that we're like, 7-8 weeks into the pandemic right now, and people feel more brittle. People feel more emotional, and people like stuff comes up and like this question like well, it's not this quick thing. It's like, oh, we're just hunkering down for a few weeks and then everything will be back to normal, right? And this just causes a lot of like tension, friction, suffering, struggling in the body, just that fact where we're in right now. And then of course life happens, right? You still have a body that you might have some health issues, right? Or some people you love might have health issues, or they're like struggling in whatever other way. So it's just like a lot to hold actually. So mindfulness, as we're turning towards this moment, we might notice like, wow, there's a lot going on. And then to acknowledge that. So that's the first step that says like, this is difficult right now, or this is a hard moment, right? And just like we would really with a friend, like that's sharing with us, and we would say like, wow, that's hard to feel that way right now, isn't it, right? And then something in our system, that's how we're wired, right? What goes like, oh, yes, it's really hard. And that helps. It doesn't change the situation, but we're actually hardwired to connect in this way. We need to feel seen. We need to feel being listened to. And we can give that to ourselves, which is really beautiful. So that's the first part, mindfulness. The second part is what we call the shared humanity. And shared humanity means like, it's completely normal that you feel that way. Like, of course you would feel that way. What are you thinking? Like anybody in that situation would feel that way. You feel overwhelmed. You have another job right now because you're homeschooling your kids. Are you kidding me? Like, of course we would feel that way, right? And so that is actually really helpful, because that is something also where we're hardwired. If we're struggling, we have a tendency to feel like, oh, that's just me. Like nobody gets this, right? And then we kind of like get into this little cage in our mind. And when we can open up and just realize it's like, no, it's actually other people feel that too. Lots of other people feel that too, right? And again, like something can settle in the system, say like, yes, thank you, right? That's what we call shared humanity. And then the third step is self-kindness. Like, can we just acknowledge with kindness that it's hard to be in this situation right now? I mean, that's just a very natural, sorry, I need to quit my mail here. It's a very natural response, right? And so we want to be kind to ourselves. And so we're going to practice that now and see how that goes. Sounds good? Okay, so I'm inviting you to find a comfortable posture right now. If you like, you can close your eyes. You don't have to close your eyes, right? So we're just usually recommending that you lower your gaze. If you don't want to close your eyes, because if you keep looking around, you have like more input from the senses and it's hard to actually really settle. So I'll be closing my eyes because I do the practice with you. So just starting out to feel yourself in your seat right now. So assuming that you're sitting, but also if you might be standing, that's fine too. And just connecting with the breath and taking a couple of longer, deeper breaths right now. As if you could breathe all the way down into your feet. And then feeling really your feet on the ground. So feeling the stability of the earth under your feet. And if you're sitting on a chair, seeing if you can feel the chair, whatever you're sitting on, and noticing that this is holding your body right now. And if you find it helpful, you can just make these next few breaths a little bit longer and deeper. If you feel quite activated or maybe a little bit anxious, we say it's helpful if you just focus on the exhalation a little bit more. You need a little bit more energy, then you would focus on the inhalation a little more. And just as best as you can, really staying with the flow of sensations of the breath. So as if nothing else mattered in this moment other than feeling the breath. And of course, at some point, usually rather sooner than later, you notice that your attention is definitely not on the breath anymore. That's not a problem. That's just your brain at work. And the moment you notice that, you just come back to feeling the breath. And to know that that is actually part of the practice, this constantly, with kindness and patience, bringing the attention back to this moment. And then just now letting your breath just flow naturally, still keeping the attention on the breath. And so I will walk us now through like a little self-compassion practice, and you can either follow that, or if you just want to stay with the breath, you can of course just do that. Drop below my words. And here's another thing that you could experiment with. A lot of people like that. And it is, you can place a hand on your chest. So there is something very powerful about supportive touch. And in an interesting way, we can offer this to ourselves. So the way that you would touch a friend at a shoulder or the arm and say like, wow, that's rough, right? So you can kind of do that with yourself. And just notice how your body responds to that, if it likes that. If that just feels too hokey, you don't have to do that. Another thing you can do is actually you can hold your own hand. So if you have your hands in your lap, nobody will notice that you're holding your own hand. And it can be really sweet at times. So if you're just having a hard moment to kind of squeeze your own hand, or if nobody's looking, to put your hand on your chest. And then, as I said earlier, so the first part of the practice is the mindfulness. So to just notice if there's anything within you right now that could use a little bit of self-kindness or self-compassion. Just maybe the whole weird situation that we're in right now with all these new pieces and the uncertainty, all of that, I mean, that in itself is already worthy of a moment of self-kindness. And to say to yourself, using your own words, something like, this is a hard moment. Or this is not easy. This time right now is not easy. Or the struggle is real. And just seeing if you can let that sink in for a moment. Receiving that, those words from yourself that say it's hard right now. Or this is difficult, or this is a difficult moment. And then we're moving to the second step, to connect in your mind with all the other people that are feeling exactly the same way right now. So you can either picture people you know who are in the same situation, or you can just really feel into the words of like, this is what it feels like for a person like you or like a person like me. This is what it feels like to be in this situation. Of course, of course. It's natural to feel that way. And you can either just feel into this sense of connection, or you can imagine just like other people. It could be all kinds of human beings. If you're a mom, you can imagine other moms in the same situation. If you're like a son, you can imagine other sons in this situation. So you get the idea, right? You really make it very specific. And no matter how specific you make it, there's still thousands and thousands of other people feeling exactly the way you feel right now. And just let yourself feel that you're not alone with this. So just sitting with this, breathing with this, can always come back to feeling the breath. And then we can move to the third part of self-kindness or self-compassion, which is really that, is offering yourself some kindness. And it can be just like in the way that you're actually using your words in this practice, that can really be a sign of kindness. So if you say, like, this is hard right now, right? So you already feel the kindness in your own voice towards yourself. But some people like to also say something like, may I be kind to myself? May I be gentle with myself in these weird times? May I find balance and strength in the midst of all that is going on. So just finding some kind words where you really feel a response in your system. So that's usually a sign that you've hit the right tone and the right words. If you feel a sense of appreciation or gratitude when you just hear those words. So may I find strength and balance. May I not close my heart. Or whatever else works for you. Just gently breathing with this. And then letting go of the practice and coming back to the breath. Or just lingering with this kindness for this one here, just a little bit longer. We're usually really good with being kind and compassionate with everybody around us. And we often forget ourselves in this circle. This is a practice we can do to include ourselves in the circle of humanity, being human. And just resting in your posture with your breath. And allowing yourself to feel exactly the way you feel. And to be exactly the way you are. Just feeling the gentle rise and fall of the breath, the chest. Wherever you connect with your breath in the present moment. Knowing that no matter what is going on in your life right now, that right in this moment, you're okay. Letting go of all ideas of the past and the future and just resting in this moment. We don't know what the future holds, but we know this moment, right now, right here. And so slowly we'll be coming to an end of this practice. If you want, you can just take a couple of deeper breaths again. Maybe starting to invite some movement into the body. Maybe where there's tension in the neck or the shoulders. And I'll be ringing my bell here. So that is self-compassion or self-kindness.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a question for you.
Please, yes.
Okay. Actually, I have two questions for you. Sometimes when I start focusing on my breath, I actually feel like I'm suddenly very short of breath.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that in and unto itself, like, brings on those first obstacles of like staying present and focused on the breath when the breath is like, oh my gosh, I'm running out of breath.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm just curious what kind of guidance and thoughts you have. It doesn't happen to me all the time, but like it happened to me this time. And
Okay.
it feels very counterintuitive to what I am trying to do when I'm
very much so.
unable to get that. Yeah.
So first of all, that's a very common question that people have, a very common experience. And so what we say, that is actually part of your practice. It gets easier as you do that more often because you start to realize actually your body knows how to breathe. right? It's just, it does that all the time. It's just that sometimes when we bring awareness to it, it gets like this little like hiccups. It's like, "Whoa," like as if you, as if you didn't know how to breathe, right?
Yes.
But your body knows that. So it's just like a gentle being aware of it. And if it's really stressful, then focus somewhere else.
Focus somewhere else.
Focus away from it. And actually the breath is not a good anchor for everybody. So like we always say, so for example, people who have asthma, their history, or have asthma, or had I don't know, near drowning experience or something. It's like, don't focus on the breath. It doesn't feel good, right? Or people sometimes when they have high levels of anxiety, because that's where we hyper focus on anyways, right? So like, ooh, my heart beats up, right? Then don't focus there. And you can focus on the feet, for example, or you can focus on sound. So totally up to you.
Interesting. That's really interesting. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. My other question is, as we were going through that exercise, and starting to think about areas of my life that needed more compassion, and then thinking about all the other people who were experiencing things like that, that also brought me anxiety. I don't know if I'm just having an anxious morning, but like that really, just, it didn't relax me.
Yes.
And it almost made it feel like by acknowledging and naming all of this, that it made the last and third step around compassion seem almost even more insurmountable, because it was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of kindness that's needed here. So kind of curious about like, if that, I can see where maybe in a different time that would be an easier hill to mount, but it just felt like a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. So thank you for naming that. As also very, very natural, very natural response to that, right? But the thing really is so we're not practicing compassion to make the pain go away. That feels counterintuitive, because of course we want the pain to go away, but compassion is there because there is struggle. And we can learn because the pain is there, and the best way to deal with pain that we can't make go away, right, is to actually hold that with kindness instead of resistance or fighting it, right? And so again, this is often really something that people need to do over a period of time, right? Because it can feel so counterintuitive. Exactly what you're experiencing is like, oh, now it feels like I'm feeling everybody. It's like, you're just like,
that's a lot.
Steroids, right? So that's a lot, right?
Right.
And then also, but it's also there, and we feel other people's anxiety. So then the question is, so how do we normally manage to not feel that? Right? Which is usually like, we're just, I don't know, what I do is I harden up, right? I become tougher. So in order not to feel that or let that in, right? And that only works that far. So as I said in the beginning, we want to have like a lot of different tools in our toolbox. So sometimes the hardening up is what we need, right? But if that is the only thing that I can do, then...
Right. What a nice relief to be able to say, hey, instead of hardening up, how about we just, hold this a little bit closer and try to, love it away, if you will.
And love it. Yeah. And to also know this will not be here forever. I mean, that is the thing where we get lost. We often think like, oh, this will never change, right? And it will.
Which is really where that mindfulness comes back in, right? Not getting too far down the, oh my God, it's never going to end path. Great. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. This is really, really powerful and important work. And it's just lovely to meet you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. And thank you to all of you who tuned in, and be well.